Hello everyone! With the final shape around the corner, we're going to need everything from our arsenal to defeat the Witness. Bungie released more spoiler-free information about the artifact for final shape. I'd recommend reading this week's TWID, but in my opinion, these are the 5 best hunter builds for each subclass that I'll be bringing in to the final shape. Starting with Strand. We're going to be using Quicksilver Storm and 6 Coyote, with the aspects Threaded Spectre and Whirling Maelstroms to unravel our enemies to use Tangles as Beyblades that seek out enemies, and using 6 Coyote to give us 2 dodges, and Threaded Spectre for a Strand Matter decoy when we dodge is a perfect way to have a high survivability with this build. I already covered this build before. The link is in the top right or in the description for more depth into how this build dominates. I promise I'll cover all the other builds with more depth. It's just having this build already made and being insanely good, I had to mention it first. So you know this is great for PvE. And if you're still grinding out Onslaught and you want to beat it on Legend, I recommend the Final Warning Strand build that I made recently. Link in the description or on the top right of your screen right now. But moving on. Next, we're going into a Void Hunter build using your Falcons and Graviton Lance. This build dominates PvE, giving us volatile rounds after dodging and being invisible, and also giving us Void Breaches to recover our health faster, giving us insanely high survivability, and suppressing and dealing extra damage with all of our weapons. If you're looking for a Void build to run in Legend Onslaught, or just normal Nightfalls, I have a different build using Orpheus rigs in the description or top right of your screen right now. But let's get into more depth with this Gear Falcons build. Gear Falcon's extra perk is See Me, Feel Me. Your Void weapons gain volatile rounds after you emerge from being invisible. When you are invisible and defeat a combatant while using a finisher, all of your weapons gain bonus damage. You and your nearby allies gain a reserve of Overshield and improved class ability Regeneration. These reserve overshields can be deployed by using a class ability, emerge from invisibility and gain volatile rounds, and gain void breaches on suppressed or volatile enemies. This pairs nicely and synergizes with Graviton Lance's exotic perk, Cosmology. Kills with this weapon cause enemy targets to detonate and spawn void projectiles that track targets. And with its catalyst, it also gets Vorpal Weapon to deal extra damage to bosses and vehicles, and turnabout, so when you break an enemy's shield, you receive an overshield. Let's talk about the aspects and fragments that will make our gameplay loop with Graviton Lance and Gear Falcons. Equip Vanishing Step, so dodging makes you invisible, and then equip a Stylish Executioner. Defeating a weakened, suppressed, or volatile target grants invisibility and true sight. After performing a Stylish Executioner, your next melee attack, while invisible, weakens targets. This is how we'll make our gameplay loop. Dodge to become invisible, and with Gear Falcons, when we exit invisibility, we get volatile rounds, and with a Stylish Executioner, defeating a volatile enemy grants invisibility. And again, exiting invisibility gets us volatile rounds. This is our gameplay loop. Equip Vortex Grenades, creates a vortex that pulls targets inward, continually damage those trapped inside. This is one of the best PvE Void Grenades. And then equip Marksman Dodge, so we have our dodge faster than gamblers, so that we can go invisible and have Graviton Lance fully reloaded. Then, let's equip these fragments. Echo of Reprisal, final blows when surrounded by combatants grant super energy. While being invisible, we can get close to enemies and use Graviton to get our super fast. Echo of Starvation, picking up an Orb of Power or Void Breaches grants Devour for 5 seconds. Devour is a buff that grants us 15% grenade energy and full HP and shield recovery. Echo of Obscurity, finishers grant Void Invisibility for 5 seconds. This is a great way to finish beefier enemies and then get invisibility that will then get volatile rounds once again. Echo of Harvest, killing weakened enemies spawns a Void Breach and an Orb of Power that grants 2.5% super energy. This is for when we defeat enemies with Graviton Lance and volatile rounds, when we get our invisibility, so we can get Devour from Void Breaches and Orbs of Power from Harvest. Focus on Discipline and Resilience. Equip the Fusion Rifle for your special ammo to deal with stronger enemies, and use a Void Rocket Launcher like Red Herring or a Void Machine Gun like Hammerhead from Onslaught activities. The dim link is down below. Moving forward, we have Assassin's Cowl, Centrifuge Arc build. We can deal tons of AoE damage that deal with a bunch of adds. All the meanwhile, you're going invisible with Assassin's Cowl for every powered melee kill. This means we'll never take any damage with our gameplay loop. And believe it or not, this build is a two-parter because we can switch the Centrifuge and Assassin's Cowl for Star Eater Scales and Thunderlord for DPS. Let's go into more depth. For encounters, PvE, activities, nightfalls, or endgame activities, we'll be using Assassin's Cal exotic with the perk Vanishing Execution. Powered melee final blows grant invisibility and restore a portion of health and shields. Finishers and final blows against more powerful targets increase the duration of the invisibility and the amount of health and shields restored. This is for insane survivability, and with the Arc subclass we'll have Combination Blow as our powered melee, which reads a quick strike that temporarily increases your melee damage when defeating a target, stacking 3 times. Defeating targets with this ability also fully refills class ability energy and restores a small amount of health. We'll be pairing this with Gambler's Dodge, so when we kill an enemy with our powered melee, we'll go invisible and regain our dodge, and then we can use our Gambler's Dodge near an enemy to regain our powered melee, all meanwhile being invisible to start the loop again. With the exotic we're pairing it with is Centrifuge, an arc auto rifle from the Season of the Deep with the exotic perk Overcharge Capacitor. Sprinting, sliding, and firing this weapon builds a temporary electrostatic charge, increasing range and reload speed. Final blows with high charge cause explosions, and maximum charge explosions blind targets. The catalyst will help us use Centrifuge with high charges always, because the catalyst reads, while amplified, this weapon gradually gains overcharge. So this weapon synergizes perfectly with Arc, using our Amplify to charge our Centrifuge and deal Blinding Explosion always. When going up against a boss, you want to deal massive DPS. All you have to do is switch out Assassin's Cal for Star Eater scales. Star Eaters have the perk Feast of Light. You gain additional super energy from the orbs of power you pick up. While your super energy is full, picking up an orb of power overcharges your super, causing you to gain a burst of healing when cast, and a bonus to your super damage. At maximum overcharge, you also gain an overshield. This is to deal maximum damage with our super Gathering Storm. You also need to switch out Centrifuge and equip Thunderlord. It has the exotic perk Rain Havoc. Final blows with this weapon generate stunning lightning strikes from above, and with its catalyst, we'll never need to reload the weapon because the catalyst reads, causing a lightning strike with this weapon partially reloads the magazine from reserves. With both of these arc builds, one for adds and one for DPS, we can run the same aspects and fragments. Equip Lethal Current. After dodging, your next melee attack has increased lunge range, jolts the target, and creates a damaging aftershock. Damaging any jolted target with melee attacks also blinds them. This is great for Combination Blow and pairs very nicely with our Assassin's Cowl loot. And then equip Flow State. Defeating a jolted target makes you amplified. While you are amplified, your dodge recharges more quickly. You are more resilient while dodging, and your reload speed is greatly increased. So after our dodges in melee attack, giving our next melee jolt to our enemy from Lethal Current, Flow State will make us amplified after we defeat that jolted target, which synergizes with Centrifuge to then attack from afar to create a blind explosion. We can then use our extended lunge range from Lethal Current to get up to the blinded enemy, and then start our Assassin's Cowl loop once more. Equip these fragments. Spark of Resistance grants 25% damage resistance while within 15 meters of 3 enemies. Spark of Feedback, being struck by a melee attack, grants 75% increased melee damage for your next melee attack within 5 seconds. Spark of Magnitude, your lingering arc grenades, lightning grenades, pulse grenades, and storm grenades have extended duration. Equip a pulse grenade so they release additional 2 pulses from 6 to 8. Also, pulse grenades are one of the best PvE arc grenades to run with this build. Lastly, equip Spark of Discharge. Arc weapons progress a counter that spawns ionic traces at the killed target's location upon reaching 100%. Progress granted by each enemy are minors 34%, elites and players 67%, and mini bosses and bosses 100%. Focus on resilience and discipline, and use 1-2 punch shotgun as our special, and use a arc rocket launcher like Crook's Termination 4 or Blowout or Hothead. The dim link is down below. The next subclass I'll be showing is Solar with a Tommy Matchbook and Warm Husk Crown. I have one video about Sunshot and Shards of Galanor for fast supers and insane amounts of healing fire sprites. A link in the description or top right of your screen right now. Or I also have a BOSS DPS build that is amazing for running endgame activities and dungeons where you always have the highest boss DPS in your fire team. That video will also be in the description or the top right of your screen right now. But enough said, let's talk about the Warm Husk Crown Tommy Matchbook build. Our exotic Tommy Matchbook has an exotic perk called Ignition Trigger. Sustained fire with this weapon overheats it, increasing damage but burning the user. Doesn't sound good, but it also has heat sink. Overheat damage is reduced while not aiming down sights. It benefits more without ADSing, but the catalyst makes this weapon shine. Heat of the moment. While ignition trigger is active, your health recovers more quickly, and sustained fire scorches your target. Best to proc ignition trigger is aiming while firing, and once it procs, continue to shoot, but hip firing, so you can scorch and recover health faster, but also taking less damage. But while we're running a gun that hurts us, we'll be using an exotic armor that heals us. Equip Wormhusk Crown. Its exotic perk is called Burning Souls. Dodging gives 67 health and a shield bump. So attacking, proccing the exotic perk to scorch, then dodging to heal is our gameplay loop with these exotics. But our fragments and aspects boost this build. Aspects to equip. Knock them down. Your solar supers are enhanced. We're going to be using either Golden Gun for DPS or Blade Barrage for ad clear. Deadshot Golden Gun has damage resistant. Marksman Golden Gun has increased duration, and Blade Barrage launches more projectiles. While your Radiant Final Blows with your equipped throwing knife fully refund your melee energy. This helps us get our knives back when you're radiant. On your mark, Precision Final Blows grant you and nearby allies increased weapon handling and reload speed for a short duration. Stacks 3 times. Activating your dodge immediately grants maximum stacks of on your mark. So dodging to get our health back from Tommy's matchbook will also get us full stacks of on your mark. Now these are the fragments to equip. Ember of Ashes increases the number of scorch stacks you apply to targets by 50%. This will easily scorch enemies and provide ignition sooner. Ember of Singeing grants 300% additional base class ability regeneration rate for 3 seconds upon applying scorch to enemies. So using our knives on beefier enemies or using Tommy to scorch will get us an insane regeneration to our dodge. Ember of Empyrean, solar kills extend the duration of restoration and radiance effects up to maximum of 15 seconds. This is to extend our restoration once we dodge or apply our healing grenade with just our solar kills, and to extend our radiance once we gained it through knives. Ember of Mercy, when you revive an ally, you and other nearby allies gain restoration. Picking up a fire sprite grants restoration. This is so that every time that we get a kill with radiance and we get a fire sprite, we are able to get restoration from those fire sprites. Ember of Torches, powered melee hits make you and allies within 8 meters radiant for 8 seconds. This is great for getting radiance and getting that 15% damage buff by just using our knives and also getting a fire sprite. We'll be using Marksman's Dodge to reload Tommy Matchbook after we dodge, and it's a more frequent dodge than Gambler's, so that our dodge can heal us. Equip Healing Grenade so that we can keep healing when we're not dodging. Focus on resilience and discipline. Equip a breach loader grenade launcher for your kinetic slot, either a disorienting grenade or a wave frame, and then a solar rocket launcher like Apex Predator or Ascendancy. The dim link is down below. Last but surely not least, this is going to be a Stasis Winter's Bite and Trident build. If this doesn't seem up your alley, I also have a Vergless Curve and Renewal Grass build that covers the map in shards, dusk fields, and will give us overshield. But not only that, but this build will benefit the most from Final Shape because of the new benefit of being in the dusk field called Frost Armor. I'd recommend giving it a watch. The link will be in the description or at the top right of your screen now. But let's talk more about this Winter's Bite Stasis build. Get the Winter's Bite Heavy Glaive from the Lightfall campaign quest Stargazer. This weapon has an exotic perk called Big Frigid Glaive. It fires a large ball of energy that locks onto nearby enemies and freezes them. It's going to synergize with their exotic armor, Trident Vice. With its exotic perk, it reads, increases glaive reload speed and melee damage when surrounded. Glaive Final Blows overflow a round to the magazine. Glaive Projectile Final Blows detonate if the glaive deals damage matching your subclass type. Yes, this synergizes with Winter's Bite. My gameplay loop is simple. When dealing with adds, shoot the projectile above their heads so the ball flies by, shooting these freezing projectiles that will detonate a stasis blast because of Trident Vice. For any enemy left standing, melee them with the Winter Bite or use a stasis primary with Headstone to create more crystals on precision kills. Let's get into aspects and fragments to expand our gameplay loop. Equip Grim Harvest. Defeating slowed or frozen combatants creates stasis shards. These shards grant melee energy when picked up by you or your allies. Then equip Touch of Winter. Your Glacier, Duskfield, and Cold Snap grenades have an enhanced functionality, and since we'll be using our Duskfield grenade, Touch of Winter increases the slow field size and creates a small stasis crystal on impact. We want all of these stasis shards and stasis crystals to help our survivability, so equip these fragments. Whisper of Bonds. Killing frozen enemies spawns an orb of power that grants 2.5% super energy. We'll be making frozen targets with Winter's Bite projectiles. Whisper of Chains grants 40% damage resistance while within 10 meters of a frozen enemy or a friendly crystal. By freezing enemies with Winter's Bite and approaching that frozen enemy, we'll be getting 40% damage resistance while we're close and defeating that enemy with our glaive. And when we're using our Duskfield grenade, it'll create a crystal where we'll also get the resistance buff, even the crystals we make from Headstone on our primary. Whisper of Rhyme. Collecting small shards restores 5 HP, and large shards restore 35 HP. If at full health, the restored HP is instead added as a stasis overshield that can have up to 50 HP. So this benefits from Grim Harvest, so every slowed or freezed enemy gives us shards that will heal us and give us overshield. We'll slow with our Shuriken and Duskfield and freeze with our Winter's Bite. Whisper of Fissures. Shattering enemies or crystals create an additional damage instance, dealing up to 25 damage in a 10-meter radius. This translates to a 12.5% total shatter damage increase. Shattered enemies include kills with Winter's Bite when you defeat a frozen target, and everything here benefits freezing and meleeing. Whisper of Conduction. Stasis shards within 15 meters are pulled towards you. This is so we don't have to go and collect every shard, and if we're close to them, we'll have them track us and heal us while we continue the fight. Focus on resilience and discipline, and equip a primary stasis weapon like Cryat with Headstone so precision kills spawn crystals, and you can stand next to them for the resistance buff. Then for our special, I have Indebted Kindness with Programmability to switch the subclass of the sidearm from arc to a stasis rocket sidearm just by dodging. This helps us with the synergy that final stasis weapon blows gives us orbs of power. The dim link is down below. I hope this video helped you get all of the builds within every subclass that will be great within Final Shape. It would mean a lot if you could subscribe, leave a like, comment on how I can improve on any of or all of these builds, and what kind of videos should I do next in the Final Shape. I again want to thank everyone who stayed to watch to the end. I also want to thank you guys for the major support I got in all of my previous videos. We finally hit 700 subscribers. Thank you guys so much. I appreciate every single one of you. That will be it for the video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.